Ladies and gentlemen, this is the latest on the terror bust in Uttar Pradesh, where after the arrest of Nadeem from Batla House, around the 14th, 15th of August, there was another ISIS terror operative who was arrested, and that was Habibullah. Now sources have told CNN News 18 that this entire JeM module, IS-inspired JeM module, and this JeM operative, active JeM operative Habibullah, who was also arrested after Nadeem was arrested in Batla House. This person, Habibullah, we've got more details. Our investigations editor Manoj Gupta getting us these details that one of the associates arrested, terrorist Nadeem, is Habibullah. He has now been taken into custody, and sources are saying that Habibul Islam or Habibullah was creating a cadre of suicide bombers. He was actually creating a cadre of suicide bombers. Habibul Islam came in contact with Nadeem over cyber platforms. During interrogation, he has admitted to knowing Nadeem. Nadeem was the one who was arrested from Batla House in Delhi. Now, he was involved in pushing terror propaganda, and this person, Habibullah, was also linked to a madrasa in Bharuch in Gujarat, and had recently sent about 10 videos, very incendiary, inflammatory, radicalized videos to individuals, nearly 10 individuals, urging them and goading them to become fidain or suicide bombers. His main target were young boys under the age of 20 who would be easily impressionable, who could be easily brainwashed. He was in touch with JeM operatives via social media. He created Telegram IDs using virtual numbers for his handlers. And he has also revealed that Nadeem had introduced Habibul to individuals in Afghanistan and in Pakistan, and Habibul was scheduled to go to Afghanistan for weapons training. Many details that come out of these interrogation details. Alok Bansal ji is with us. One, a JeM operative in touch with another JeM operative, highly radicalized pan-Islamist identities or ideologies. More importantly, wanting to create a cadre of suicide bombers, which is ISIS-style attacks in India. The other thing is this person had access to madrasas deep in Gujarat, in Bharuch. He was actually sent away from Bharuch because he was so radicalized, and the madrasas wanted him to stay away. He was sent away from there. But he was going to be taken to Afghanistan for weapons training. Now, the information itself has many layers and many points of concern. Alokji.
See, there is no doubt that we are now going to face a situation where we are seeing there is a huge attempt to bring in suicide bombers into India and send them to India. We saw our apprehension of one suicide bomber in Russia. Now you have got another person trying to recruit them, sending them to Afghanistan to train them. We need to understand that with Taliban in Afghanistan, now all these terrorists of different shades and hue feel they have a safe haven for themselves. They have a territory where they can be trained. And plus, they have got a huge ideological fillip with Taliban coming to power in Afghanistan. And I think we all need to be extremely cautious, because all these terrorists are trying to create a narrative by which they are recruiting these impressionable young youth who can easily be hoodwinked and forced to come into this sort of, indulge in this sort of an activity. So we, the security forces will have to be far more vigilant to counter these terrorists, and we need to counter the narrative that people like Habibullah, etc., are churning out to recruit these impressionable young minds. And I think that is going to be a big job for the state as well as for various intelligence agencies, because in days to come, we will see similar activities happening in different parts of the country. And I think all citizens would need to be vigilant to keep a watch on people like these who are suspicious, whose activities are suspicious, and who are indulging in radical, trying to propagate radical thoughts and radical ideas.
But the other aspect is one trying to use these youngsters. Remember, it was a 24-year-old who got onto the stage and stabbed Salman Rushdie. what we are seeing is a lot of youngsters getting highly radicalized. A lot of these people who are being arrested are in their mid-20s or late 20s. The other aspect is this training and going to Afghanistan for training.
As I said, youngsters are the ones who get actually highly radicalized. It has always been seen, not only in India, but across the globe, that for a suicide bombing, very often impressionable young man, because it is easy to radicalize them. They are the impressionable minds. They can be hoodwinked. They are given to believe that it is their religious duty to indulge in this sort of an act. And that's what they have been doing. And more importantly, Afghanistan now, with Talibanized Afghanistan, provides a theological justification for jihad. In fact, it meets a very critical theological requirement of jihad. And a lot of youngsters feel that if Taliban can manage to capture power in Afghanistan and defeat United States of America, they can do so. They also find now that in Afghanistan, they have a territory where these impressionable youngsters can be sent and they can be trained, and they can be trained to indulge in suicide bombing and other activities like this.
Well, it is a serious matter of concern. The other aspect is that they are quite spread. They hail from Bihar. A lot of origins are tailed back to Bihar, but they are in touch with the handlers over in Pakistan. And this seems to be an active aspect. How do you go ahead and try and control these encrypted chat rooms and conversation boards like Signal, like Telegram? Because they seem to be the used or the favored rooms. Tomorrow, if they come under scrutiny, they will move to certain other platforms which will offer these kind of encrypted conversations. Alokji, final question.
This is what I have been saying, that you cannot go on a tail chase, shifting from one platform to another platform. But what you can easily do is to go through the narrative that they are trying to churn, the narrative that they are trying to use to motivate people. We don't have to actually go into each and every conversation. But once we have got a narrative, we need to generate a counter narrative, and that we can use our social media to propagate it. Because that de-radicalization module will be what will be more impact, which will prevent youth from getting radicalized. If a youth has already been de-radicalized or has been exposed to a narrative which tells him how flawed this narrative is, that he will not get influenced by this narrative. So it's important that we need to come out with a narrative which de-radicalizes, which actually tells them that all this facade, all this narrative which these radical outfits are churning out is actually a flawed one. Because their narrative is seeped into theology, you also need to create a counter narrative which is seeped into theology. You will have to quote from religious texts, from hadiths, from various religious texts, and tell them that this is what they're supposed to do. They have to live in peace, they have to do this, and not indulge in what the terrorist outfits are telling them. And that is how we can counter them. Otherwise, it will be